أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم
पनाह मांगता हूँ मैं अल्लाह की शैतान मरदूद से।
बिस्म इल्लाह अर्रहमान अर्रहीम।
शुरू अल्लाह का नाम लेकर जो बड़ा मेहरबान निहायत रहम वाला है।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Brothers and sisters of Islam, welcome to this program of Faith Forum. Today I have a fortune to have with me two very important personalities from the city of Birmingham who have devoted their time and energy in the development and promotion of interfaith dialogue, understanding and cultivating harmony amongst different faiths and cultures in the city of Birmingham. I have with me Sister Najma Hafiz, who has spent her time and with great devotion in the field of health and education, but more so socially in the field of diverse culture that exists in the city to promote understanding of the Muslims, of the Pakistanis, Islamic culture, and make people realize that we are no alien from different planet or different culture. And of course, besides being socially involved deeply in this, her great aim and ambition is to promote education. Education, especially amongst the immigrant community that come here to make England their home. Sister Najma Hafiz, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I also have a great opportunity once again to have with me our brother Muhammad Abbasi. Muhammad Abbasi is a well-known figure in his own right in this country to promote understanding, bring people and minds of different parts of the globe who are Muslims and made England, United Kingdom their home. His depth of knowledge of the other religion and their personalities in England helps me to gather and bring people in onto this very program. But today I thought I will not talk about Christianity, about Judaism, about Hinduism or Buddhism. Why not look into our own hearts and minds and talk about the Muslim world? And one of the critical factors happening in the Muslim world, very fast, rapidly changing Muslim world, is the position of women in the Muslim world. Only few days ago, there was a shura in Saudi Arabia where for the first time a few members were allowed to discuss and participate in a body where only men could sit. A country, even today, wouldn't allow women to drive their cars. But not too far away from there is the country Pakistan, which was brave enough to have a woman as a prime minister to lead the country. The rights of women in Islam is well known and documented. It is enshrined in our Sharia. But do the Muslim countries, their politicians, their rulers, their cultural heads, their religious heads really, sincerely, truly adhere to the position of women in Islam. Let me ask our sister first here. Sister, lip service is very easy. Everybody can give lip service. We can say, look at our religion, our faith. We give great position to Maryam, the mother of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, to Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, to Fatima Zahra salamullah, the daughter of our great Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But sister, truly speaking, do we really give the women in Islam, or not Islam, in Muslim world, the position they really deserve?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First of all, may I say thank you very much indeed for inviting me onto this program and to discuss this very important topic. The answer to your question, I would like to say, how long have you got? Because my views are very, very strong and very lengthy. Sadly, I do not believe that the Muslim world as a whole actually is respectful of what Islam says about the rights of women. And that's a great tragedy, and that is why we're seeing some of the tragic events that are going on in the world. As a Muslim and as a Muslim woman, I am extremely proud of my faith. I was brought up here with my family in this country as a Muslim, and I was taught the Quran in its essence, the actual meaning of the words, and not just paid lip service by reading the Arabic version. And if you read the meaning of the Quran, and you've given some very good examples of the great Islamic women that existed with our great Islamic family, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's own wife, Khadija, was extremely powerful woman in her day. There are lots of examples. So not only Islam, but there are very good examples of how Muslim women have been respected and given the opportunities that they deserve. However, I am very sad to say that the practice that I see every day in my life, both sadly in this country, which is supposed to be democratic, and in countries across the world where Muslim women are concerned, we do not get our equal rights. And that is not the problem of, that is not the fault of Islam, that is the fault of the interpretation of Islam. And I'm very sad about that. But I think it is our duty as Muslim brothers, sisters, everyone who actually believes in Islam properly, to make sure that the right version is practiced.
Brother
Excuse me.
Muhammad here, women till about 50 years ago couldn't even buy a property in this country in their own name. The suffragette had to demonstrate outside in London in all changing weathers here to get a right to cast a vote in this very country. So what we see in the West over here actually is what the rights women in Islam had more than 1400 years
Absolutely.
ago. Having a right is one thing. Is it the fault of the women or the men of Islam that they did not use the right, and the men usurped the rights of the women and made it their own domain? Is it true?
First of all, I'd like to thank Najma for saying what was on my mind, but I couldn't express it very well. But what she said was absolutely perfect. On your question, I think to an extent men have usurped women's rights, but the thing we need to understand as men, especially as Muslim men, is now that we are looking back into Islam, looking back into our history, looking back into the ways of the Sahaba, ways of the Prophet, and how he dealt with women, we need to go back to that source and realize how generally men have treated women, not just Muslim men, but men from the West as well, is actually wrong. And we need to go back to that source and empower our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, and give them the rights, not from ourselves, but give them the rights that Allah gave them. Islam expressed those rights, expressly gave those rights to women, not men. And it's wrong for us to deny women those rights that are given by Allah.
Well said. The rights given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this country, religion Christianity or Judaism haven't given the women the rights they hold today. Religiously, they were as they were 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. It is the social structure, it is the political structure in this country that have transformed the rights of the woman as we see today. In Islam, religiously, they have had the right. They had the right yesterday, they had the right today, and they will have the same right tomorrow, i.e. of independence in their own rights to be equal to men in many form and way. Physically, the difference stands, but rightfully, socially, their structure in Islam is such that it stands them on the same height of the pedestal. It is we who have lowered the pedestal in such a way that today if we talk of honor killing, men don't get killed by honor killing. Why is that men? Why is it the women has to make that sacrifice? Why is it the women have to pay the price? What honor? To take a woman's life? In the countries and the parts of the world we come, rape, burning, acid throwing, disfiguring, taking them away from educational institution, dumping them, that all your good is to cook food, right? We have done it, not religion. Here religion didn't give them right. They fought for their right, they took the right and they want to hold on to it. In our culture, in our society, religion gave them the right. Our great prophet made sure that they had equal rights. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when I will reward mu'min and mu'minat. All men and women in heaven equally. When He is going to reward us in heaven equally, who in the world are we to say we are superior to the others? But the question is, how can our women get their rights back today?
Let me just pick, there are so many things that you've said which I think are very, very accurate. First of all, there is a difference between what is said in Islam, what is said in religion, and there is a difference in how societies are governed. So, Islam is an absolutely perfect way of governing one's life, and that is why Islam is a way of life for many of us. However, when it comes to governance of societies, communities and countries, tragically, it is about power. And what is real at the moment in today's society, both in Muslim countries and in the Western world, is that the power is in the hands of the male population, men. And men, unfortunately, and before I say anything, can I say I am not a man hater. I have two beautiful sons. I have a husband. I worship my father as you know, as my devoted father. Mashallah, alhamdulillah, unko jannah naseeb kare. So, but I do not agree with men who believe that they can use Islam as a tool to undermine and keep women down, and unfortunately that is what has been happening. Now, you mentioned the case of Benazir Bhutto, fantastic example as a Muslim woman elected to be the Prime Minister of that country. Wonderful. I remember I was very young at the time, but I was celebrating her success and seeing her as a role model. But you know, if you go behind the scenes and if you study how she suffered, not only gaining that position, and I have to be even more forthright and say one of the main reasons why Benazir as a woman was able to get to that position was because of her family dynasty. Her father was a great politician, and because of his links, his contacts, etc., she was able to get that position. For any ordinary woman, that would never, and it never has been the situation. At the moment now, I'm very pleased, however, to say in Pakistan things are changing. There are many more women now coming into positions of being a councillor and positions of being a member of parliament. Very welcome. However, I do have to state the fact, which is, sadly, in the majority of situations, men have used religions both in the West and in our countries to keep women down, and it's all about power. But you know, if they really thought correctly, not only should they fear Allah, because at the end of the day we're only here temporarily, we're going to be answerable to Allah. Those politicians who undermine women are not going to just answer to their electorate, but to Allah at the end of the day. And as you've said, if Allah Ta'ala has, in the great wisdom of Islam, said that women should be respected and treated with fairness and justice, then how dare human men disagree from that? So what I would say is that we should make sure that we understand this is about power. And as a woman, what I'm doing personally is raising my children to be respectful of both men and women, because it does start in the home, it does start in the madrasa, it then goes into the schools. So we have a great need for education, to make sure that people are educated about Islam in its essence, and also the benefits of having women, because men and women are different. We have skills that you don't have as a man. You have many skills as a man that I don't have. It should be a mutual relationship, mutual respect. That's what we should be developing.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Brother Muhammad, says that the men and women are like the garments for each other. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I created them different, but I created them in pairs to be together. However, he emphasized the role of man, hunter, provider from outside. But the role of women, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made so sublime that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, is all love. From his ocean of love, he took a drop and put it in the heart of the mother. And that's what we know of a great mother's love. And with that love, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when a child is born, the father is not able to take care of the baby as the mother does, because that instinct of love. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, yes, this child will grow up to be a great scholar, but the start of learning, it starts from the mother's bosom, from the mother's hands, from the mother's little finger that the child walks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made jihad compulsory for men in many forms, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the childbirth, the pain, the suffering that a mother goes through, keep her waking at night to feed the baby, right, is equal many times to a jihad of a man. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made our role, then it is for us to understand what is the role of a mother at home, and if she is free and able, bodily, physically, intellectually, to become a doctor, to become a nurse, to become a politician, she has a right to do so. But in the West here, Muhammad, the women are torn in two parts. They work as the officers, they work as an outside with the external jobs, but when they come home, they have to work at home as well, and they are torn. And so that they are physically, mentally torn, that we see in the West, the marriages, the relationship becomes few months, few years, even few days. In Islam, living in the West as we do, we have to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from a woman, from a mother, expects from a man, from a father, and how we can compromise in such a way that both blossom like flowers do in spring. If that is the view that I have expressed, I've taken a little time to do so, do you see the future of the Muslim boys and girls growing up, getting married, how will they be able to preserve and cherish what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them as a great gift?
You know, the struggle of a mother is actually a great jihad, and it's very difficult for me as a man to express that. But the thing is, when I see mothers out there who are going to work for their children, who might not have a partner with them, out working and then coming home and working for the kids, looking after the kids, is actually very difficult. It actually makes me admire more women who are raising their kids, who are working. But as Muslims, I think we need to understand that not only is this happening in the West, also in parts of our world, our Muslim world, and we need to have an understanding that yes, as men, we can do more. We can do more to help these our sisters, our mothers, our daughters. But at the same time, we need to understand that everyone is going through struggles, especially in today's economic climate. But as Muslims, again, we need to look at the wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Khadija, how she struggled, how she worked so hard to where she was. I mean, in her own right, she was a very strong woman. Then she married the Prophet, peace be upon him, and she became stronger. There was this union between mutual respect. And again, there are so many role models in our history that we can look back on how they treated each other and how we can follow them as Muslims.
I think it also depends on absolutely the relationship between the husband and the wife. I think if men are able to respect their wives and their sisters and understand that actually their wives and sisters have abilities and skills that Allah Ta'ala has given them. For example, if one is able to be a professional, and let's say a doctor, okay? Now that job is a very important job. It is saving people's lives and so on. It should be celebrated. Now, if a woman is able to achieve that position, inshallah, alhamdulillah, then that should be celebrated. And so in a partnership, as a husband and wife, the husband should understand the contribution that the woman is giving to the outside world, and she's doing her Islamic duty, because in Islam it does say that it is our duty to educate ourselves, it is our duty to contribute to our communities and our society. So she's doing that. But in doing that, the husband should also make sure that in understanding and respecting, he actually gives her the support that is necessary, as she, as a woman, automatically, generally, gives a husband support. So the husband goes out to work, the woman encourages, motivates him, cooks, cleans for him, nurtures him, all that thing. That can be both ways. And I know it can work because, mashallah, shukr alhamdulillah, I'm very fortunate. I have a husband who fully understands my position. He understands that I can contribute externally to the home as well as internally. So we have a mutual understanding, and he supports me in everything I do. And that then enables me to have the confidence to go out and do the things that I do. And together we can do more than if he was doing it on his own and I was doing it on my own. So it's about mutual respect and mutual understanding. It's about giving each other the time and the support.
Time, support and understanding.
Yes.
Words which are easily said, but when it comes to practical life, right? Nowadays, a modern Muslim young man will say, I want a wife who is educated and who's got a job and earning. Every woman, every girl have got different attributes. Some would like to excel in the fields of knowledge and engineering, science, everything, but some would like a domestic life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the choice. And now a girl is under great pressure that she too must get her A-level results at par with the boys, and she should also become a doctor or a scientist or an engineer or an accountant. If not, she is dumb. It is not being dumb. Being a mother, being a sister, being a wife is not a dumb job. It's the most respectable profession in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so much so that when our great Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to go to Fatima Zahra Salamullah's house, right, and when she used to come, he used to stand up to greet her. He told the world that, look, I greet her as Fatima, my daughter, but I respect her as Fatima, the wife Ali, the mother of Hassan and Hussain alayhi salam. So even in the house, the role of mother in Islam is as equal as a doctor, a lady doctor or a lady accountant.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
डॉक्टर वासी साहब कैसे मिजाज है आप?
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, दुआएं आपकी।
मैं गयूर अब्बास लूटन से बोल रहा हूँ।
अच्छा, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
I would like to welcome our guest on the topic. The topic is human rights, and I would like to ask one question from the panel, that which of the religion of the world actually allows or give us to practice the human rights the most? I think the Islam is the only religion, not because I am a Muslim, but if we go through the detail of the religion of the world, the Islam is the only religion which gives the importance to the life. Remember, the importance to the life. So human rights are actually not for human, it is for the life itself. So tell me, which countries of the world are working for the true human rights? I don't think any country, though some of them are apparently propagating the human rights, but internally, actually, they are not doing when their interest is involved. The same thing is in the Muslim countries. I think Muslim countries are worse than the other countries in performing the human rights propagation. So could you please, I think my views are clear, and I would like to answer, to know the question, which of the countries or which of the religion is propagating the human rights? Thank you very much.
MashaAllah.
Thank you.
Okay. That's very important question and a very essential question. We have devoted quite a bit of time role of women in Islam, and mashallah, we appreciate the greatness of women and their position, and inshallah it should improve. But to take on and tackle the question that has just been put up before us, the panel here, that human rights in general in Islam.
Absolutely. Can I answer that question, if I may? First of all, brother, thank you so much for bringing that point forward. You know, sometimes I think we, although I am the first to stand up and say, as I have done, that sadly the evidence in front of us seems to be that the Muslim countries are not actually adhering to the equal opportunities that relate to women in Islam. In practice, they don't do that. However, sometimes we do attack ourselves too much. Brother is absolutely right, because he says that if you look at the Muslim countries, there doesn't seem to be much evidence. You know, I've been to Malaysia, and I'm at the moment studying what's going on in Malaysia. And I'm, out of all the faiths, I think I have more knowledge about Islam than about Buddhism and Sikhism and Hinduism and Christianity. However, I have been extremely pleasantly surprised that in a country like Malaysia, if you look at the evidence, there are many, many more percentages of women working full-time. They are working in very important professional positions. They are held in high regard, with respect. They're not made to feel special or that different. They are equal. But Muslim women are also given the same respect whether they decide to stay in the home or go out to work professionally, because as you quite rightly said, Dr. Saab, you know, it is a choice for us. And if we choose, as a woman, if I choose to stay at home and bring up my family, look after my children, look after our elderly relatives, mother, father, in-laws, and the extended family. That is just as important as doing cardiac heart surgery, you know, in my view. But the respect given to that hasn't been the case. So in response to my brother who asked the question, yes, the evidence seems to be that there isn't very much going on, but there are good examples, and I would like a country like Malaysia, in my knowledge, which is doing the right thing, I would like the good practice from that to come into places like Saudi, like Pakistan, and also like England.
Okay, so human rights and the rights of women that you so eloquently put forward, that there is always room for improvement, yes. And inshallah, let us hope that we keep on getting to where we should be.
Inshallah.
Coming to the human rights in general, if we look at the Muslim world, human right doesn't mean, you know, I can do this and I can do that. Human rights is giving citizens of a country, citizens of the nation, rich or poor, of different faiths of color and caste, equality. It is the duty of the state to provide that. It is the duties of the both Islamic leaders, religious leaders, as well as the politicians to provide that. If we look at, for example, just in within 40 days, right, what happened in a place called Quetta in Pakistan. I've never been, but a group of people, within inverted comma, law-abiding citizens of a country who had lost more than 50 people on a bomb blast. In their religion, they mourn for 40 days. They're dead. Even 40 days hadn't passed, yet another bomb blast takes place under the very nose of a garrison which is based near there, right? And more than the number that were killed first time get killed again next time, right? All because that, yes, they are both Muslims, but one thinks, I'm a better Muslim than him being a Muslim. Leave alone fighting with the Christians or the Jews or the Hindus or the Sikhs or the believers or non-believers. If we haven't got the tolerance to tolerate somebody who says La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah but does not fold his hand my way or straighten his hand, he is wajibul qatl, he deserves to be killed. If we haven't got tolerance to this extent, then can we hold our heads in society, in the world, and say we are proud to be the follower of the religion Allah gave to us through our Prophet, great Prophet Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? It is a very big question, and we would like to see what your views on that.
My views are basically we've forgot Islam. This is specifically concerning Pakistan. I'm from a Pakistani background. I'm British Pakistani. I love the country to bits. I find it very painful to see what is happening in Pakistan to our Shia brothers and sisters, and also other minorities. I don't like calling them minorities. If they are Pakistani, they are Pakistani. But when people use Islam, use the religion that I have studied, I've been brought up with, I find lovely, beautiful, loving, and I find that religion, that the kalma, the shahada, to me as a Muslim, I'm directly responsible to Allah. If I harm someone else and I use the name of Allah, then I'm actually placing myself to an extent outside Islam. And when people attack another group of people, it doesn't matter if they are Muslim or they are not Muslim, but if they use the name Allah and they attack those people, innocent people, then my own belief is they actually place themselves outside Islam. Because Islam does not mean you are violent against another group of people, you're violent against innocent people, you're hurting, you're harming people, and using the teachings of our Prophet, peace be upon him, using the ways of, or they mentioned jihad, for example. I don't know which jihad is this that kills innocent children. Okay, they are Muslim, kills young innocent Muslim children and claims it to be some kind of jihad, yet they're walking around Quetta freely, the perpetrators of this crime. And it also pains me that more Muslim ulama, and I say that term loosely, because when they do not fight for justice, they do not fight for these innocent people, then how can I regard them as ulama? It is
so Muhammad,
very, very painful.
leading for an imam of a mosque, leading prayers 5 times a day, with takbir, with ruku and sujood, do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they are imam of the mosque, has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed in responsibility on their shoulders to stand up for the defense of innocent women and children to be maimed and killed? When we go to Hajj, when we all go to Hajj, it is said, do not kill a little ant. If you do that, no Hajj, you have to give kuffara. Do not pluck the leaf of a plant, because it too has life. If you pluck it, you have to give kuffara, because that Allah doesn't. If Allah does not allow us to kill an ant, not to pluck a leaf unnecessarily from a plant or a tree, what are these mullahs and imams who stand with in their hand, a stick in their hand, right, and make proclamation that recitation of Quran, Hafiz of Quran, they recite verses and surahs, but they cannot. Allah stands for the right of an insect, for the right of a plant. What type of mullahs are these who have got pulpits but cannot preach? They preach their slogan of hatred rather than slogan of love. Assalamu alaikum, may Allah's peace and blessing be upon you. This is how a Muslim should greet. There are television stations in this country, there are newspapers in this country, there are Islamic religions in this country. Don't they have the decency to stand up, hold hands together as one nation of Pakistan or one Muslim as a religion and say, look, forget our differences? We all, when go to sajda, we all do sajda to one Allah. Your Allah is not different. He doesn't wear a green robe and mine a blue robe. Why can't we do that?
The reason we can't do that, sadly, is because we are so far away from the, I keep saying this, from the essence of Islam, the real meaning of Islam. And the real meaning of Islam, as you've given examples there, is about love, is about concession, is about listening, is about communication. And you know, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, if you look at his life and how he went about his business, he taught people, he said, adab, respect. And he said the most important part of our Islam is ikhlaq. Now, if you practice those principles, then you are not going to stand with your stick and use authority or gain power for yourself and say what you believe and not what is directly given to us as guidance from Allah Ta'ala. And so that is why we get these extremely poor examples all across both the Muslim world and the Western world, because people have forgotten their real meaning, why we are here on earth. As a Muslim, I know why. I think I know why I'm here on earth. This is a test for us. This is just a tiny, tiny part of our journey. And we have to prove our devotion to Allah. And in proving our devotion to Allah, we must practice what Allah has given us as a guidance. And unfortunately, these mullahs that you've just cited, and these people who crave power, and who use excuses like, well, he doesn't do Islam like I do, or he's a Shia, he's a Sunni, he's this, he's that. All those are, for me, totally superficial excuses. And they are excuses to gain power. And we also know that, you know, in the human being, there are certain factors which can be very negative. Ego is one. Human ego is very powerful, very strong. And if you allow your ego to get carried away, then you will crave for that kind of thing. power above others. I want to be the leader of all these people. I want to do what I feel is right. That is not Islam. Islam is about real democratic rights, understanding that whether you actually live in a mansion or whether you live in a hut, you are a human being. Allah has made you. Allah loves you. And if Allah can do that, then how dare we as human beings, whether we are mullahs or non-mullahs, how dare we question that?
When a Palestinian child dies, we cry, shout foul against the Zionists, the rogue country that sits in the heart of the Arab world. When an orphan is made, we condemn the Zionist regime. When a widow is made in Palestine, we condemn the Americans who support the Zionist regime and supply them arms. When a young man is killed in Palestine for no reason, but just being a Palestinian, we cry foul. When in Quetta and other parts of the world, in Muslim world, when a Muslim child is made orphan, when a Muslim young man loses his livelihood, or family loses their livelihood because the man and bread earner is gone, when a widow is created, then should we blame the Jews? Should we blame the Americans? Should we blame the British? Or should we shamefully blame ourselves and have the courage to say, let us clean our house first before we throw garbage at the others?
Absolutely, I agree with you. We have to clean our own house before we point fingers at other people. There's enough issues within, not just within Pakistan, with certain communities. I'm British Pakistani. Here in Birmingham, we have certain issues as the British Pakistani community, and we don't take responsibility for those. For example, there's an increasing drug problem in our community, and we're not standing up and taking notice of that. If someone else, for example, if the EDL decides to come into certain areas, suddenly we get all shocked, like, let's go and take them on. Fine, let's go and take them on. But at the same time, there are issues in our community which we're not taking on. And to an extent, it's the same problem inside Pakistan that people have used, politicians have used, the mullahs have used. I'm not going to call them the ulama. Ulama is a different set of people. But the mullahs have used, the politicians have used simply for power, to gain power, to point fingers at other people and try to deflect the blame from their own communities or from their own sections of society. And I think we have to be much more mature, we have to be much more stronger as individuals. We have to understand that this is not what Islam teaches us. Islam teaches us about personal responsibility, about responsibility for the other person. And I think it's time we woke up.
Can I just say, we've used the word respect quite a lot of times in today's discussion. It is about respect. It is about understanding. And as well as getting our own house in order, we've got to get our own selves in order. So, you know, each and every one of us has got to study, what are we doing every day of our life? How are we contributing to this bad practice? So, as a Muslim, if we don't stand up to the atrocities that's going on all over the world, to non-Muslims as well as Muslims, then we are failing that responsibility. If we do not communicate in the right way, if our ikhlaq is not good, then we are guilty. And so I think what we have to do is to understand, what are we doing as an insan ourselves to make sure that we are a good Muslim and that we set a good example, number one. Number two, Muhammad's absolutely right. In our immediate, forget about big countries abroad, in our own local community, what are we doing to ensure that as a Muslim we are seen and we are dealt with the highest regard? Because, you know, that is what it's all about. If we can be excellent examples of being a Muslim, then the world will try and recognize and respect us. They will also be threatened by us. And that is where my second point comes in, which is we need to be united. And you know, as Muslims, we have to practice unity. So there is a hadith in the Quran, you know, which was quoted to me just recently, which is that, you know, if, you know, when your friends or somebody, if they say something to you once, you listen. But if they've said it 5 times, your duty as a Muslim is not to say, oh, you idiot, I've heard that before. You've said it 5 times. As a Muslim, your adab, your ikhlaq should be to listen as if it was the first time, pay the person respect and be patient. Now, if we can practice those sort of qualities every day of our lives, and if we can organize our local communities as respectable, responsible Muslim, then we will be held up as examples. We will be examples to our children, to our families, to our communities, and then inshallah, also I thoroughly believe that we should be taking full part in what is going on. In this country, for example, in this city, there is a governance system, there is a political system, and I believe as a Muslim woman, it was my duty to take part because Allah's given me the skills and the attributes to represent people. So I became a local councillor. I did various things politically as a woman, as a Muslim, to make sure that people understood that we have a contribution to make. Exactly. And we can contribute and we can make society and our communities better.
Brothers and sisters, doesn't time fly fast? We have hardly just started discussion on this major topic.
I know, just getting warmed up.
Towards the end of the time. Islam, as our sister here says tahzeeb, akhlaq, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a great gift to our Prophet and said, khulq-e azim, I have given you the greatest of akhlaq. When a religion is based on akhlaq, on courtesy, on good manners, that when Bilal Habshi comes to our great Prophet, he receives the same respect, if not more, than a local Arab. When Salman Farsi from Ajam comes to him, he respects the great personality of Salman Farsi. Our great Prophet, peace be upon him, left 2 things, he said. I'm leaving behind after my death, passing away, the great Quran and the Ahl al-Bayt. Don't leave them aside. Don't pack the Quran and put it on the top of the shelf. Read it. It's a book of gem. It's the book of advice. It's the book to practice and preach what Allah wants us to do. The Muslim world, the Islamic culture is great. It's beautiful. Like flowers, we shall flourish. Like flowers, we shall bloom. And inshallah, we will do so. Let us, each of us, in our own way, in our own household, in our own village, in our own town, and in our community, do what these 2 guests of mine, Muhammad Abdasi and Sister Najma Hafiz, are doing for them. They are not only worried about what they earn and bring home and what bread and butter they can share with their children, but the akhlaq, the tahzeeb, the patience, the respect of others' life and belongings we can give, then we will be Muslims not only by practice, but we will be Muslim by example. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us that great opportunity to be the Muslim the way our great Prophet wanted us to be, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be, the way the Quran preaches us to be, the way the household of the Prophet, the Ahl al-Bayt, wants us to be. Let us be the star on the universe as Islam is to be and Muslims are to be. May inshallah we will meet again next week to discuss another great topic, and let us hope that the 2 guests here come back again for another discussion another time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.